It's that time of the week to do another 2024 rookie mock draft, and this one was sent in by a subscriber. It's one round, it's super flex, but we're going to do what we always do and talk about the picks, talk some ball, talk about the draft as well. This subscriber, though, had a message. He wanted to be a little bit funny. You know what? I'm going to entertain it. Let me read this off. He's saying, "Don't be scared, homie. Stockton 209. I want to thank you for the submission. I love going over these mock drafts with you guys. As you know, we've been doing this for quite some time now, 3 or 4 years. However, I used to have to make them up. We were doing them so much. But now, last couple years, you guys just keep sending me these mock drafts. But what we're going to do, go over this one round, super flex, rookie mock draft, talk some ball on the picks, and hopefully, as we do this throughout the season, the off season that is, we can get you set straight for your rookie drafts this spring. But let's talk about this super flex draft. We've done a number of these. A one rounder, the 101. I think we have a good idea what's coming up. I think we have a good idea of the pick here because 100% of the time of the drafts we covered, he was there. But there could be another option there waiting in the wings, and we know who that is too. Who do you think's getting drafted today at the 101? And I think you know it. We all know it. And it's standard here. Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, 101 in drafts and Superflex. About 95% of the time from what I'm seeing it. I think people are too scared to defer too. Marvin Harrison Jr. would be the next guy up in my mind. Like, if you really wanted to go wide receiver, if you're really into Marvin Harrison Jr. as that top tier prospect, as that can't miss, can't bust prospect, if you are all in, I could see it. If you're looking at the super flex value here and knowing that quarterbacks just hold so much value over time, even if Caleb Williams doesn't hit, you're going to get a return on investment from the 101. You're just going to do that due to the nature of the position. And this is also due to your league and how it values the quarterback position, because not all leagues go to market. They just don't act like the stock market, like Twitter tells you, or other websites and YouTube channels tells you how things should be. If they don't value quarterbacks the same, they're very liquid, you may be thinking Marvin Harrison Jr. You might be thinking that more. And that's why we're trying to be more broad when we talk about players, because not all leagues are the same. But overall, macroeconomics-wise, ADP says it, even though there's no ADP on the channel from looking at these drafts, ADP is saying Caleb Williams, 101, pretty easy. I don't see anybody arguing that. Had a good year this year, even though he was on the downs for a few weeks. Showed some chinks in his armor. Also in 2022, very productive. Coming into 2023 as one of the best quarterback prospects we've seen in a long time. He can create. He can throw it downfield with accuracy. If the play's broken, he can make it happen. Caleb Williams, solid get here at the 101. Now we're looking at the 102 here. The thing about this, when I look at these super flex drafts, it's between two players. I said this last video, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Drake Maye. But right now, there's another player coming in the mix, maybe two. We got Jayden Daniels, because I can see him sneaking up if people like him a lot, especially in mock draft season when there's no skin in the game. But when there's skin in the game and the draft already happened, he might be a climber. Also, Malik Nabers, because people like him. People are questioning. I see this on Twitter and social media. The variance between him and Marvin Harrison Jr., and they're both very good prospects. Situation might impact that. It might. A lot of people are hard on Marvin Harrison Jr. too. And I like him a lot. I'm not moving the rankings. I'm not saying that. I'm talking macroeconomics. I'm talking about how things could change during draft season. Also talking about this 102 pick and trying to see what happens, because I don't remember what happens. And this is how it happens. I get these drafts. I sit on them for a bit so I forget about them. I already have all the assets for the content already made up. And then we get to the video, we start talking some ball. But going here, looking at the 102, who do you think it's going to be? Who do you think they're drafting? Let's take a look. Marvin Harrison Jr. we're keeping things basic. We're keeping things basic because I'm seeing this in almost every draft. I'm also seeing Drake Maye go 102 a lot as well. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is almost a can't-miss prospect here. Generational talent coming into the draft. No one's going to debate that. He's going to get draft capital for days. He's going to get opportunity early in his career. All the signs are there. The highlights, the actual tape from play to play, the metrics here. We got a good breakout age. We got good production. 14 touchdowns in back-to-back seasons. 77 touchdowns as a sophomore. 67 as a junior. Looking back to his high school tape, he was a nuanced route runner then, and we looked at that on the channel. That's why we look at these high school prospects. So when we get to the stage, we have recollection of how they looked coming through the high school ranks. And now we have an idea of how they progressed, how they got better. Marvin Harrison Jr. got better. He got faster as well. He got even better at route running. He's a very hard worker. He's gritty. Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 102 is something to be expected in a lot of drafts. We should expect him to go there. But at the 103, who do you think is going to be next there? Because we got Drake Maye on the board, Jayden Daniels, Malik Nabers. We got those guys. All those guys are candidates to be the next pick. Drake Maye's usually the next guy per ADP, per drafts I've seen. Per the ADP in here, from what these eyes have seen, Drake Maye is usually next. However, things are going to change here the next few weeks and months because we're going to get more data. We're going to get more mock drafts from Big Fantasy. That's going to impact the market a little bit. It is, especially as we get into these mock drafts from other people going into draft season. As we get in the thick of things, it's going to make some changes. That being said, we're looking at the 103. Let's see what they did here. Drake Maye, we're keeping it basic, we're keeping it simple, and usually is right now the 103 in drafts should be the second quarterback off the board, but maybe not. Maybe not, because we're getting a lot of hype out of this quarterback class. I look for some risers. I look to hear some rumors about teams wanting to draft Jayden Daniels very high. I'm looking for that. I'm looking for hype around some of these quarterbacks. Drake Maye is a good quarterback prospect. We saw him hit in 2022. Once Hal left, Drake Maye was slinging rocks with accuracy downfield. He had command of the offense. Things got a little bit slower here in 2023, but we still see the talent. We still see it there. We still see accuracy downfield. We still see him make some plays here. Drake Maye, we see him go at the 103 a lot. Sometimes at the 102 at his highest. Never the 101. I've not seen that yet. Maybe you have. Let me know if you did, but I've not. 102 I have seen a few times. That was a few weeks ago, though. It hasn't been recently. I could also see him going down a few spots as well as we get more hype into this draft. But now we're moving on to the 104. When we think about the 104, we have another candidate who could be jumping up here depending on how these guys play the game, and that's Brock Bowers. If they're salivating for a tight end, he could be in the mix here. If they're valuing quarterback pretty high, Jayden Daniels could be in the mix here. If they're falling to ADP as what we've seen these last few drafts, Malik Nabers is going to be here. And really, I do not see anybody else jumping up there. Could be maybe Odunze because he's hot. Maybe Michael Penix because he's coming off a hot game. Maybe one of those two guys. But the odds are kind of against it at this value, but could change once we get deeper into draft season. That being said, who do you think they're going to do at 104? Because it's going to be very interesting. But let's click that button. Jayden Daniels. So I think in the last draft, the other guys drafted Malik Nabers here at 104. Then Daniels went 105. Daniels here at 104. Huge year. Huge year. Broke out as a freshman. I don't know what you consider as a breakout, but in the Devi community, people had their eyes on him during his freshman season. Things slowed down, transferred to LSU. And then in 2022, we were in the middle of that season, back after that season, you start looking at Jayden Daniels, and he was making plays happen. He was doing some things on the field at the SEC level. And then he came in this year in 2023, put the stamp on things with 40 touchdowns. One of the best quarterbacks in the nation. Riser. And he's going to keep rising in the offseason. He's going to be a guy who's going to be drafted pretty high in Superflex. He's going to hold that value for a bit. And you're going to be watching where he goes in mock drafts and real drafts throughout the offseason. Jayden Daniels is going to get a lot of talk here. Once things start to slow down, once the NFL's done and big draft starts talking, people are going to talk Jayden Daniels up. But who are we talking up for the 105? Who are they drafting at the 105? Malik Nabers still on the board, considered another generational wide receiver prospect, up there with Marvin Harrison Jr. Some people have them neck and neck. Some people have Marvin Harrison Jr. here and just Malik Nabers here. And then other people just recognize him as a good prospect. We also got Brock Bowers. He could sneak in there if they overvalue the tight end position. Also, could they throw in another quarterback? Because it is super flex. I've seen people value quarterback really hard in Superflex before, where they go nuts at the quarterback position. Really depends if league mates hold other league mates over a barrel in your league and how they value the quarterback position, because we're in a weird market right now, and we got a deep wide receiver class. One of those wide receivers could be sneaking up. But realistically, Malik Nabers should be the pick here, but Brock Bowers, most likely to be sneaky. If I had to choose, and if I had to guess, Nabers is coming off the board, and that's it. Nabers, come on down. 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns. Dude is lights out. Good breakout age, good production. The highlights are there. When you check the tape from play to play, solid. Dude's dominant. Can really lay it down out there. Good ball skills. Has been doing it for a bit too. Nabers is a good wide receiver prospect here at the 105. 104 is a good spot for him. And if you really don't like the quarterback position, you take him at 103 in Superflex, I'm not going to hate you. And I'm not going to hate you if you take him over Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think that's a bad idea if you did that. I would not hate you. I wouldn't care. I just wouldn't care. I think they're both very good wide receivers. I don't care. I just recognize them as being good wide receivers. And I recognize their range of outcomes are going to be very similar. And if you like one over the other, then that's cool. Cool. Good on you. I'm just here to help you out with the information. I'm here to be that dude to give you some advice. But if you like a player, you like a player. I like him a lot too. I've talked him up a lot. Been talking up on this channel for months now. But who are we going to talk up at the 106? Odds are saying Brock Bowers. Odds are saying that for real. Could be a quarterback. That could be the next guy off the board. We could be start looking at running back here. Are they going to draft a running back? Maybe one, maybe two. Can we get two running backs off the board here? Or are we going to be stuck here going wide receiver in the back half of this draft? Quarterbacks fading, running backs fading, and maybe a little bit of Brock Bowers. My guess for this next pick is probably Brock Bowers, because that's what ADP says. And right now when people are doing drafts, it's pretty close to ADP. Boom, Brock Bowers. Like I said, he has been a standout prospect. The highlights rip. The tape rips. Watching him on Saturday, he rips. Watching Brock Bowers over these last few years, you've been excited for him since he was coming out from high school. And then in 2021 as a freshman, you saw him play. You saw him rip off those yards after the catch. 13 touchdowns. Very explosive, and we just build on top of that throughout our career. He's going to be a first-round prospect. He's going to get that draft capital. He's going to be explosive at the combine. At the combine, he's going to add to his stock even. He's going to add to that, because a lot of Dynasty gamers, they'll hear about these players, maybe watch a little bit, but they do not start paying attention to these rookies till February, March. And I can tell you that, because I can tell you about the numbers of this channel. February and January, people take that time off. This is a good time if you're watching right now to get a leg up. When we get into March, when we get into April, that's when Dynasty gamers start to pick back up here. Brock Bowers, though, 106, he's locked in. Highest I see him going right now, 105-ish. Lower, in Superflex, 107, 108 maybe. Maybe, depending on how they value running back and how they value the quarterback position. And each league is their own market. Different leagues do different stuff when it comes to valuing players. And being off a slot versus ADP isn't a big deal in some of these drafts. But at the 107, is this going to be a big pick? Are we going to see something new here? Because right now we've been standard. We've been standard. We've been pretty close to ADP right now. If you agree with me, I've been able to guess the picks pretty closely here. I have a good feeling that this pick is going to be a little different. I do not know, really. I could see them going running back. I can definitely see them going one of the other wide receivers. Thinking about the hot names from the Wool games. Odunze, Michael Penix. I'm also thinking about the running backs. I do not know if these guys are just running back heavy. I just don't know about that. If it was me and I was drafting here, I'd be drafting Odunze because I love him. He's one of my favorite wide receiver prospects. If you heard me talk about him in the last video, you guessed that. I have him up there, but I do not know if they do. And they could be going quarterback because that makes sense. Could it be Michael Penix because he's a hot name right now? Could it be one of the other guys? I don't know. A lot of these mocks, too, I see the trend of when a player's rising, the mocks rise with them quickly. Let's take a look here. Who do you think at the 107? From the 107 to the 112, that's when drafts get different. That's what I'm seeing here. Let me know who you think's going here. But let's see it. Odunze, he's a hot piece right now. 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns. Had a big performance in his last game. I don't know if I got the numbers updated for that game, but Odunze doesn't need it. He doesn't need it because this guy can get downfield and make plays happen. He can do that. He's got ball skills. He's a guy that really should be competing with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Nabers. Really should be when it comes to athleticism, when it comes to traits. Draft capital isn't going to be too far off. He's very explosive. He's got ball skills. And getting him at this portion of the draft, the 107 range, when your odds are like 50-50 whether your player's going to hit or not, and you're getting a player here like Odunze, who'd be one of the top wide receivers in last year's draft too, maybe the top guy. He'd be up there with Addison. He'd be up there with JSN. He'd be ahead of Quentin Johnston for sure. He'd be ahead of Zay Flowers. Back-to-back big seasons, dominant, forced downfield. Odunze is a baller. He's a playmaker. He might be the wide receiver one. When you're looking at the traits, the college production, and college profile from last year's draft, he's going to flirt with that. 107, that's a good value for Odunze. Very good value. I like him a lot. Are we going to catch a good value at the 108? That's a big question. 108 is going to be tricky here because we can go with the first running back off the board, and it could be a number of guys. Trey Benson, TreVeyon Henderson, Braylon Allen. Really depends on their flavor and how they're looking at the running back position. We only have a few picks left. I only see 1 to 2 running backs coming off the board because we still got a lot of good wide receivers. This is also super flex. They could be going heavy at quarterback still at the back end of the draft. I have no idea right now. If it was me, I'd be pounding the wide receivers unless one of the running backs went to a good spot. Or I like one of the quarterbacks. I do like Penix a lot. I wouldn't ignore him either. There's a lot of ways to go here. Where would you go right now at the 108? Let me know right now in the comments. But we're moving forward. Michael Penix. I liked him at Indiana. He was doing some good things there. If you go back and watch, if you were paying attention, had some injuries. Those injuries, hopefully they don't crop up on the medicals or anything, making things kind of icky when it comes to our projections. However, the last 2 years, 9,000 yards? Over 9,000 yards the last 2 seasons here at Washington. Lights out, accurate downfield. He's a baller. And I don't talk about him much because honestly, I'm scared I'm biased because I liked him back in Indiana. I thought he was a good prospect there. Seen him play in the Big Ten. I live in the Big Ten area, so I kind of saw a lot of Michael Penix. And then he went to Washington, played well last year. I was into him, but I was scared of being biased, so it kind of laid off. This year, I'm also scared I'm being biased, but I'm going to definitely say I like him. I like his traits. I like his mental processor. I like how he can sling it downfield with accuracy. He pushes it downfield. He's gritty. He'll stay in the pocket. There's a lot of good things about him. I think he's also another candidate to get pushed up the draft boards this draft season. I think we're going to hear a lot of rumors about Michael Penix. We're going to hear a lot. You may even hear rumors that he's the QB2. I guarantee you, March, April, you're going to see that on ESPN or somewhere. There's going to be an NFL scout saying Michael Penix is being valued as the QB2 by some NFL teams or something. We're going to hear that. We're going to hear that. That's going to elevate his stock. I think for the QB4, this is the fourth quarterback off the board at the 108 in this class, is a good price. I would not be surprised if the QB4 in this year's draft goes 106-ish, 105-ish at the highest. Because you still got to have Marvin Harrison Jr., Nabers up there. Odunze's got to flirt with greatness. You got some players here at quarterback and wide receiver, and they're going to fight for draft capital. That is where you want to lean into if you want to lean into the strength. But are we going to lean into a different position at the 109? Because the running back position here, people don't like it this year. People are down on it. That being said, we're going to have some running backs hit from this class, or at least get some opportunities, and at least be productive in fantasy for a short bit. At least give us a return on investment as a flip, at least as that. And we're going to have some running backs get drafted in some optimal situations where even if you don't like them, you can draft them, play penny stocks with them or whatever, and cash out. There's a lot of meat on the bone at the running back position considering the market is pushing it down a bit. Second round, third round. It's not the greatest running back class, but teams will still draft running backs. They're not going to ignore it. They're going to find traits that they like on some of these guys. That's a take for the whole draft. I just got off the rails here. We're looking at the 109. There's a good chance that they draft one of the running backs here. It could be TreVeyon Henderson. Braylon Allen I've seen go in this range. I've also seen Benson go in this range. Maybe some other running backs that might get pumped up soon. That being said, I definitely see another quarterback. Quarterback is kind of getting thin, but also more talented than other years at this range of the draft. However, wide receiver's hot. I'd be pounding wide receiver right now. There's some wide receivers on the board that I like. I don't not know if they're coming off the board, but let's see. Let's see what they're doing at 109. Emeka Egbuka. 1,200 yards, 109 off the board. I think this is good value for him considering I've seen mock drafts where he went at like 106 range. 109 is fine. 111, 112 seems like the range he'll probably end up going unless he gets pumped up. Emeka Egbuka has some talent. 5-star prospects, was going off in 2022 with Marvin Harrison Jr. there with 10 touchdowns, 1,100 yards. A good prospect to watch. See how Big Draft likes him too. And with there being a lot of good wide receiver prospects in this draft, you're just picking your flavor. I like him, but I also like a lot of wide receivers in this class. And I'm not going to be too harsh, especially when I don't have the draft capital, the team, the situation, quarterback, all that stuff. But I like a lot of wide receivers in this draft class. 109, when I think about the value, it's okay. It's okay. And he's a wide receiver that I'll probably draft a good bit. But again, 109 is okay when it comes to value. But now we're going to the 110. The 110. And we could do a lot of things here. Another wide receiver. We can draft our first running back. We can go another quarterback, making almost half the draft in first-round quarterbacks, which makes sense with it being a high-end quarterback class and with it being super flex. That being said, I can definitely see another wide receiver coming off the board. I'd be pounding wide receiver. But again, you may want to go the RB1. I'll just call it the RB1. Because you're going to know after the draft, this is a good spot for the first running back drafted. The first running back drafted is not going to be drafted in the fourth round. It's going to be second or third. That's something to pay attention to. And it's probably going to go to a situation where they need a running back. And it's probably going to be one of those top running backs. That being said, 110 is a good value for that. And that running back is probably going to jump in value once we figure out who it is, the landing spot, and draft capital. But at 110, they drafted TreVeyon Henderson. They went Ohio State, back-to-back Buckeyes. And when he's healthy and on the field, he does look like a top-drafted running back. Top drafted means second, third round in this year's class. He does look like that. The injury history is kind of scary, but you go back to that freshman season, explosive, and everybody thought he was going to be a big deal coming out here in 2024. Everybody thought that. But still, we're waiting. We're waiting to see what happens. We're waiting to see what Big Draft thinks about him. We're waiting to see what the NFL thinks about him. But at the 110, and we're calling this globally as the RB1. So it could be Braylon Allen, it could be Benson, it could be somebody else. The first running back drafted, second running back drafted, one in the most prominent situation that gets that juice. Saying that, the 110 is a good spot. So whoever's that running back is going to be drafted probably a little bit higher if you think about it. Because you're going to be getting a runner that people are projecting, people talking up, as a guy that's going to get opportunity early in their career, and people need running backs. Running back is a very fluid position, and you can catch wide receivers in the second round. You're going to see that running back get drafted a little higher than the 110. 110 is a good discount for that RB fantasy rookie draft RB1 guy. TreVeyon Henderson, if he's that, 110 is a good discount. But who's at 111? Who is this? This could go anywhere. We could go another running back because we do have talent at the running back position. We have a lot of talent at wide receiver left. The second round, you're going to see wide receivers there. And this is letting you know right now, you may want to get some second round picks. 205 or better. Preferably 203 to 201 range if you can swing it. I don't think you're going to because people know, especially in Superflex, that someone's going to fall that first round who is usually a first round talent. Because we're seeing that right now. At the 201, 202, you're licking your lips right now. Because you know someone's more than likely going to fall right now. Something's going to happen where it's going to be kind of juicy for that spot. But we're going back and we're seeing who's at 111. Bo Nix. That guy at 201 and that guy at 202 licking their lips because they're going to get a wide receiver. They're probably a running back. They're going to be getting something here. Bo Nix turned it on when he got to Oregon. He sure did. He did it in 2022. Put the stamp on things in 2023. Probably going to be drafting the first round. Should be drafting the first round. Was very, very helter-skelter there at Auburn. But that's Auburn. You can turn things around. You got to root for people to turn things around. A lot of people are going to be rooting against them. I also seen him not drafted in the first round. A lot of rookie mock drafts, especially ones that we went over in this channel. That being said, Bo Nix at the 111. For this to happen, he's got to be drafted in the first round. And there's got to be some optimism. So that has to be there. And if it's there at the 111 and you're getting a quarterback at this range, think about Will Levis was going in this range in Superflex last year after he was drafted in the second round. 111, early second roundish. He was going in that range. He was falling a bit. People were still drafting him a little bit. He was not falling down in the second round rankings, though. He wasn't falling into the third or anything like that. Bo Nix, if he goes in the first round, say he goes like 20 range or something like that. Say someone trades up to get him or something. Are you drafting him at 111? Say they got a good wide receiver on the team. Maybe he's got a city year or something behind a veteran. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts? What teams would Bo Nix go for you to be in on him? Are you in on him? I want to hear about that. 4,500 yards this year, 45 touchdowns. Dude's been lighting it up, slinging it downfield with accuracy. Really turned things around at Oregon. Let me know what you think about that. But they drafted him at 111. The thing is, we got one more pick at 112. We got wide receivers on the board. Two big ones for sure, and a lot of others too that could be going in this range. Also, running back could be a thing. And really, if you want to push the mental gymnastics of this class, maybe quarterback. Tight end, nah. But if you're drafting 201, 202, 203 in this draft, you're excited right now. This is letting us know, especially look at the other mock draft videos I went over, that range of the draft could be a sweet spot for you to trade into if that's your thing and that's where your team is headed when it comes to capital, when it comes to trading, when it comes to building. If you need to funnel back or work your way up to a certain point, that might be a spot for you. It really depends on your situation here. Everything's got to be objective here when you're doing content for Dynasty because there's thousands of leagues out there and there's a million ways to play the game. That being said, the 112, let's hit that button. Keon Coleman. Usually we see him drafted around the 108, 106 range, maybe 109. It's a little bit later. However, when you think about him, it's kind of scary when you look at the production. It's kind of scary when you think about that, especially if you're a metrics head. I'm like that. You look at him on tape, good ball skills, strong hands, strong as hell, good at the catch point. Draft capital might be there. I say it might, because this time last year, Jalen Hyatt was a first-round pick in every mock draft. Every rumor with Jalen Hyatt was a first-rounder. He was a first-rounder. Then we get to the draft, third-rounder. We also have a lot of wide receivers. We have a lot of wide receivers in this draft that did not get drafted who could push for first-round status. Definitely could see that. There's a lot of talent on the board here at wide receiver, and that could impact things from an economic standpoint at the NFL level. That could push down some wide receivers. And why that could happen is because you see the wide receivers on the board, you see other positions of need, and they're kind of lighter than the wide receiver spot. You can wait a few more rounds to get you a good wide receiver. So you draft that 3 tech, and you add them to your team. Come back the next round, patch up wide receiver. Come back in the third round, patch up wide receiver. You can draft a 3 tech and maybe a linebacker, a 3 tech, a guard, then get your wide receiver. And you're still going to be pretty good. You're still going to be good at wide receiver. You're still getting a good guy there. That's how deep this class is. We're talking about 15 to 20 wide receiver 10s. Top 10 wide receivers, about 15 to 20 of them compared to any other class. It's going to be a deep class. We see this a lot in drafts too. But Keon Coleman's a good prospect. He's got the film. He's got the highlights. We saw him on Saturdays make those big plays, those splash moments. Someone's going to buy in on that. And that could be an opportunity to get a wide receiver in the first round that could help your fantasy team. Let me know who you're looking to draft in the comments below. I want to hear about that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. You watched this whole video. You watched the whole thing. You might as well. I kept you entertained. I did my job. Just hit the button and stop missing out. I want to thank you for watching, though. Catch you on the next video.